Hey everybody, we're on Roots Week 5, day number 4. As I said earlier this week, we're a day behind because my anniversary was earlier this week, and so I just took a day off from the camera. We'll make it up tomorrow. Today's passage comes from Jeremiah chapter 5, verses 21 through 31. I want to read kind of the beginning and end of this passage today. So it says, "Hear this, ye foolish and senseless people. They have eyes but don't see. They have ears but don't hear. Do you not fear me?" This is the Lord's declaration. "Do you not tremble before me, the one who set the sand as the boundary of the sea, an enduring barrier that it cannot cross? The waves surge, but they cannot prevail. They roar, but they cannot pass over it. But these people have stubborn and rebellious hearts. They have turned aside and have gone away." Now, I'm going to skip over a few things. Basically, he goes on and talks about just how rebellious his people are and how they have, abandoned him, turned away. And as a result of that, they're suffering the consequences. They're not getting, their crops when they need them and all this sort of thing. But they keep becoming more and more evil anyways. At the very end of the passage in verses 30 and 31, it says, "An appalling and horrible thing has taken place in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests rule by their own authority. My people love it like this. But what will you do at the end of it?" So I wanted to read that because it talks about, it really speaks well to just the condition that we have as sinners. We have eyes, but we don't see. We have ears, but we don't hear. Basically, what that means is like we're seeing and we're hearing, but we're not understanding what's happening. We're not actually listening to what God is saying. I love the part in there where it talks about God says, "Do you not fear me? I set the boundaries of the sea." Think about how powerful the ocean is. Think if you've ever been in the ocean and played in the waves, those things can knock you over. And we don't even have big waves out here on this side, in this part of the country. If you go out, where people like surf and stuff, the waves can be huge. Think about tsunamis and things like that. Yet those waves cannot overcome the sea, or overcome the land, I should say. Like God set the boundaries of the seas. He controls the seas. Jesus calms the seas. That's the God that we're dealing with. The oceans themselves, which are so powerful, listen to and obey God. They cannot defy him. But we, people, we can do that. And we do that. We don't fear the God that calms the sea. Instead, we cross him. We are literally more stubborn than the ocean is. Like that. That's a crazy thing to think about. We, in spite of all the things that God tells us to do, we disobey him because we are by nature sinners. And at the very end of it, it talks about how horrible things have become. And it says, "But my people love it like this." Such a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that God has to say there. I hope that God never looks at the sins that we have at the exchange, the sins that we have at East Campus, and is forced to conclude that we love it like that. Very often, that is true. We not only sin, we love wallowing in our sin. It's sort of like that verse that says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool returns to his folly." Well, I mean, you think about what vomit is. Vomit indicates that there's something in your stomach that shouldn't be there. But dogs will throw something up and then they'll go back and they'll eat their vomit. It's like the thing that made you sick, you keep eating over and over again. It's just disgusting. But that's how we are with our sin. The thing that hurts us, we love it. And we go back into it and we wallow in it. And we just make things worse and worse and worse and worse. And there are consequences for our sin. And so it ends with this question: what are you going to do at the end of it? What are you going to do when the consequences come? What are you going to do when there's nowhere left to go? I pray that we don't get to that point. It's so important that we deal with sin in our life, and that we really not that we deal with sin in our life, but that we allow God to deal with it. Because the truth of the matter is that we can't deal with it. That's why Jesus had to die, because he had to do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. The question is now whether or not we're going to cooperate with him, whether or not we're going to allow him to do his work, or whether or not we're going to resist his grace and keep going back to that destructive sin that we got in trouble with in the first place.